our VBCS tutorial. Today, let's see what we can see. We look at the applications and the flows and the pages and how to default the flow and pages, and we also look at how to look at the sources. Then we create a page. Probably use the person that business object we created last time using the person. I create a page by using a wizard. I try to I think my videos are going 30 minutes and plus. I try to make it smaller if possible. Let's see. Now we get into the tutorial. I mean practical tutorial. Now whenever you this is that application view, and this is where you create a services. This is where we create a business object. This is will come out later. The process. This is the source. Okay. Now, when you go to the application view, it give application. Within the application, it give the flows. This is called, the first one is called flow. The flow has got a page. So by default, whatever that when you are creating application, you might have created selected the template. According to the template, we created a Redwood template. So it is creating this application name, but you can rename it. Okay. I think here itself we can rename it. And by default, it give a main flow and main start. You can have a different flows if you want. That and all you can do that. Then we look at that. Now, there's no fragments. Then we can look at the resources. Resources based whatever the actions you are creating in component. You can also create a CSS file. You can add a components, you can put an images file. We don't use the CSS, but definitely we use the images and JavaScript and the string. I'll show you the string, what is happening here, where the string goes. Basically, the string has got two files. One is NLS files, one is a root file. The NLS file works when you are working with the multiple languages, means translations. Otherwise, all the string goes here. We create some string. So I'll show you how it is getting stored here. Then that's then you have a root page which is provided by the system. We are not going to use this one for this tutorial. Okay. Now the same thing you can look at in a different view. It has got a little more file system view. If you are looking at that here, see that when you are looking at the reality, you see the flow and the page. But when you are coming here, if you are looking at the pages, okay, this is the flow. It says it's flow is main. You can create a subflows. If you want, you can create a page, or within the page, flow within the flow, you can create that. Okay, the pages, it is divided into 3 files. The flow also divided into 2. One is a JavaScript file and JSON file. The flow. But the pages, if you look at the pages look at the 3 parts. This is HTML file, this is a JavaScript file, this is a JSON file. Please, whenever you develop something, go and look at that. The understanding of this part helps you how that the code is written back end. If you understand this one totally, even if there's any problem, you can go and manually edit. You don't have to go all the time. Even if you don't edit it, understanding these 3 files are more important. So always look at the code, what is happening. When you add an action, or when you add a variable, whatever you do that, this is going to affect one of these files, or all the files, or some of the files. So please go and look at that. Okay, now we go back to the application view. Okay, the application view. Now this is application. This is a main flow or the flow. This is the page. Now, how does this application know this flow has to be called? Whenever you are running something, for example, I try to run that just to do that. Now, this is by default, it is calling the main flow. Okay, this is what the page is. The flow is there. Now, how does it know it has to be called? In this case, more than one flows are there. Or whenever, this flow. And whenever there's a more than one page is there, how does the main flow knows this page is to be called? Okay, you can have more than one page or the more than one flow in the application. Now, if you are looking at the the setup file, that is JSON file, that tell you what is defaulted. The redwood is the kind of a the theme name, that is what the application is, and this is says main. You can go and change this one if you are creating a different flow, like more than one flow, and you want to make a different flow as a default flow. You can go and change this one. Okay, the same way, but okay, well, like I go back to this part. But I don't know if it's a problem or not. They also have the same thing here, default page, but that doesn't shows anything. But the theme shows. But I think probably this is that a bug or something. I don't know, but it's supposed to show what is that default flow is basically attached to that. Okay. Now, when you are coming to the same way, when you are coming to here, the same thing happen. That in the flow it says what is the main the default page, but when you are coming here, that shows it is working fine, perfectly working fine. Okay, I don't know what is the reason, but okay, now we are getting into that part. So that this can be done in many ways. Like you can either you can change it here, or you can change it here, or you go here, like in a diagram. Here also you can change it. Basically, you can change in a diagram, you can change it in a JSON file or a setting. Either way, you can change it. Okay, this basically lists out all the pages which is that the flow has it. Okay, this is how you define your default flow and the default page. Okay, now what we do, we are going to create a page and we are going to use all the results. Like very minimal coding. We try to create an application with a CRUD operation. Okay. Now I'm going to create a page. So I'm going to the flow. I'm creating the add create page button. So creating the page. You can create a flow within the flow. That's the reason it's give you two options. Okay. Now I call this manage person because I'm going to use a person. Okay. Now I'm creating it. Okay. Now what happened is, like for example, like in your case, like I'm changing just for the example, like just to show you, I'm changing my default like manage person. I can change it here. Now if I go and run it, I don't get the same page. You don't have to run it again. You can go and just refresh this page. See, you don't see anything. The reason is now the default page for the flow is changed. Okay. Okay. Now we'll keep it. Now later what we come here is we come to the page, we put some kind of a ring. So when we add more than one page, we don't have to every time we don't have to change that default page to run it. Okay. Now I'm going here, like you can see that the many part, like in page designer. Page designer is like how the page look like. And the action is basically kind of a triggers. And the event listener is like when to trigger, like and events I've used it. The type is a various type. Whenever you create a custom type of a variable, okay, then the variables are like either basic variables or you can based on a types. JavaScript is where you define a functions. Like now JSON is like you can see all this one. This one you don't work unless you want to manually go and change something. You don't do anything here. Okay. Now you want a more space to work on that. You can minimize by clicking here. You want more space. You can click here also. You will get more spaces. At the component has got three pieces or three areas where you have all the components. Like the component you are going to use in the UI. All the components are listed here. Like the data. The data part has got two area. One is a business object, or one is a service. If you're looking at the business object, it will list out everything we created. Like then we go to the structure. Structure may not have anything. The reason is the structure defines what is the structure of your HTML page. Okay. Now what we do here is we add the first component as a header. just you can filter that. I'm just clicking here, header, header. Okay, the heading is coming here. I'm adding the heading here. Okay, if you are looking at the code says the division within the heading is heading 1. So if I'm like putting to 6, so automatically this will change. Okay, but if you are looking at the structure shows the grid row because there's a division that there's a grid row. Then there's a heading. Okay, now then we go back to the design. The design is the place where you do a that changes. You can change it either in the code or in a design. That's fine. Now you're going to leave is kind of a a live page. Whether you can do it from here. Here this button also take you into it. That's a real application. It shows here. Okay, there is heading is the heading is appearing here. Now, okay. Now, how do I change that? I can click here. Sorry, I go to the design mode. I click here, I can change it here, or I can change that here. It's the same thing. Either in a code or a design, you can change it. Okay. I'm changing here to manage person. Okay. Now the manage person. So now it's appear here. Now just to refresh the page, that is also going to say the manage person. Okay. Okay. Now after that, what we are going to add is we are going to add a table. So we can add the table here, okay, or you can add it here, or you can add it in the code section also you can go add that. It's the same thing. As soon as you add here, it's not added. No, it's not added it. So I track and table here. I add that. Okay. Now if you are looking at that structure, so it is not appearing. The structure should reflect immediately. Let me refresh it the page because the structure should reflect immediately. Okay, it appeared here. I don't know. There is some okay. There's a refresh issue, I believe. Okay. Now the table is appearing with the column 1, column 2, column 3. Now, if you are going to the table here, or you can either click here or you can click here, is the same thing. Okay, I'm doing everything through this way through the UI. Now you get all that general properties, selection mode, data, event, everything is here. You can go and add that. If you know the variable, you can add it directly. Now this even tell you what are the events. Basically, there's a click events, first row selected, multiple row selected, people row edit, end, and the custom events. Except this one multi-row selected, we're probably going to use it in our tutorial, all these events. Okay, but we'll do it later. Now we are going to do the quick start because this page we are going to create with only wizards. We are not going to do anything much. Okay, now I am adding a data. So the data will appear here if there is a process or your services, everything will come here. So we are going to do it from a business object. So I'm choosing a person data, not a person, sorry, person, not a person data. So now I'm going to choose what are the column I need. There are two type of columns listed here. One is whatever is appearing in the UI. The one is which is not appearing in the UI but is available. So basically, if I say that I may not use ID in the UI, but ID I may need it. So I can do that like that. Then if I go to ID, like here, this is whatever displayed in that table. Name, person UID, then job, then salary, then countries. I did some changes in this one. Probably the country is gone. Okay, we'll add the country later. Country is somehow I refresh the. I did some changes in the table structure. So probably I dropped the country look like. Okay, well this is enough for that. Okay, we are going simple. Finish it. Okay, here there's a filter criteria you can add that. We are not going to add that. You can add a column. When you are adding a column, you will get a you can choose that column from that service or the rest. and you can also choose the variable, then you can choose the operation. We'll do it later. Now we are going in a simpler way, just finishing it. Okay, now that I also had a lot of data. Okay, the data is now appearing here. I brought all the data from from my first lesson, whatever I shown to you. I brought the data here so that it is easier. Like, okay, now what you can do here is the person unique ID. Everything is coming from that display name of that column definitions. You want to go and change it, you can change it. Now we'll go and look at how the data look like. See that if you are looking at the data, this is how the data is going to look like. It looks a little different than the usual the HTML way of doing it. Okay, now it says that columns like a name is here, person unique ID. Uh, yeah, like then what do you call it? Job header text. You can make it little, change it to like capital J. The same way, the salary also probably you can make it the header text. Okay. Now this is how it looks like. Like if I go back and look at that, this one, see that here. Okay. How do I change it the UI way? Like I can go to the data. The data probably says all this. This one you can go here. I can change that. Like you can go here. I can change the name here. That is also I can do that. Like either way you can do that. Whichever is easier for you. Now what did when I did all these like wizards? What it did background? Basically, it did the two things. One is created types. Created a type called get all from. This is from the endpoint of what REST service of the person object. Okay, you go here, you can look at that, like how you can add a column, direct a column, you can do all these things here. Now if you are looking at this item, it show you every column which is basically coming out of the REST service. That is here. Okay, you can add a column. This kind of transient column, it has got a lot of problems. I'll tell you later. Okay, now that's okay. Now when you are going to the variable, it created a service provider. Okay, if you are looking at the service provider, I say service provider and what is the endpoint here, and say what are the other objects available. Like you can set a queue property, you can set a filter, all these things you can do. Sorting area, like order by, all this you can do that here. Okay, we are not doing anything. We are going very similar way for this lesson. Okay. Now it is done. Now what I'm going to do here? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do like create, edit, delete, everything. I'm going to do the wizards. Add a create page. Okay, next. So it will give all the required mandatory column comes here. I put a job here. Then I put a person unique ID. Her name is there. Job is here. Salary is here. Now the button is just I say create. Okay, create person. I say okay, create person. Okay, I say it's a page name, so ID is here. I'm just finishing it. Okay. Now I have a button to create. Now what happened? What it created? I tell you, it created a page. If you are looking at that, okay, it created a page called create person. That's what the name we are given. It created a button here. When you are clicking this button, the button probably created an event. Okay, the navigate to create person event. Like if you are clicking here, that will get into the action close here. Okay. Now, okay, this action what it does is you guys have a lot of actions here. You can do it. There's a called navigate. If you are looking at down here, there is something called navigate. Navigate is basically allow you to move from one page to one page. Is a navigate back. You can look at all these things, like call a component, call a function, call a REST service, assign a value, fire a notification. These all we are going to use it. So basically here, what is it? When you click here, it will tell you which page you are moving in. And if that page has got a parameter, if you are expecting you to set the parameter here, probably that create page doesn't have a parameter, so you are not setting anything here. Okay. Now, what is the action listener happen? like action listener is basically says navigate to create person. Is a button action happen. The action listener is a create person button clicked. The button clicked is action here, and that's what happened here. Then the for the action listener, the action is attached to that. So we know the type. There's nothing more here, nothing type here. Okay. Now when you go to that create person page, what happened? Okay. The create person page basically is listed out there, cancel and save. Okay. Now what happened to the cancel? You are looking at the even, it's probably going to say go back. Okay, navigate back. That's our action here. So basically, we are says navigate back. That is action here. Now, if you are looking at that create person, okay, go to the page designer, then look for a save action. Save action has got a lot of like information over here. Basically, like what it is probably I'm going to do here. I'm not going to explain everything. It is validate all these properties, like validate the page, the form is valid, then it is going to call a REST service to insert the data. If it is successful, what happened? If it is failure, what happened? All these things happening here. We will do manually by the time we'll come to know that. For the time, just if you want to go through, just click everything, look at what is happening here. When you are coming to the variable side, it create a variable. Basically, you need it created a variable from the endpoint. Endpoint is like when you are going to the variable type, it created a endpoint. Business object service is the error endpoint. Okay, this is basically whenever error, how the error is stored and all the stuff. But this is what the endpoint we are using for the data part. This is created a endpoint. This is the object. Basically, object is based on this one. Okay. You can edit the endpoint and all the stuff. You can do that, like this is based on edit endpoint. But we also have a variable based on this one. The person variable, the create person request based on create person request, which is based on the type, based on the type based on the endpoint. This is what it is. Then the data goes here. From here, the REST service insert the data into the table. This is what happened here. Now let's see. We'll run that. Okay, what happened? Okay, all this one I'm going to create this one, say new tutor person. Okay, new tutor P001, job ID is say tester, salary is say 50,000. Okay, fine. Okay, 50,000. That's fine. I'm just clicking a save here. The person is saved. Now, where's the person is there? New tutor person is here. The person is saved and has all the information here. So the create is working. Now, what we do after that? Okay, I can do the same thing with the edit and everything. I go page designer. I click in the table button. I click in the table. I go to the quick start. I can say add edit page. It is also going to create one more page. So okay, new person here. Person is here. Okay, name is there. Okay, I can make it only read only if you want, like probably no. So basically, we'll make it read only later because okay, if you don't want to allow them change the name. Okay, I'll do a usually I do the data here is edit. Okay, edit, okay, edit, sorry, okay, update person, update person, okay, edit person is here. Then what I'm going to do there is person UID, job, and salary. Okay, I'm finishing this part. Now this also created a page called edit person. Now what happened to this button? Okay, this button is disabled by default. The reason it's disabled is you look at the button here, it says disabled on a certain variable. the variable is enabled once you are clicking a row here. That is how it is designed. Like, if you are clicking here, there's a new event probably added, or like, there's a new event added. That even what it is does is basically is assign a certain variables value. Like, now if you are looking, go here and looking at the variable, what it is assigning is says person ID. So basically that says that if the variable is null, then the button is like, button is not enabled. That is how that the button works. Okay, now we'll go back to the button like page designer. Now let's see what it is doing here is. I'm sorry, this is a sorry, I'm not the variable. This one that okay equal to empty. Sorry, I look at the wrong one. It says equal to empty. Actually, even you don't need to. Just you can remove also it works because the empty is almost validate. Okay, so if it is empty, it is disabled. That's what it says. Okay, if it is not empty, it is enabled. Okay, that's the case. Now, what happened? The event also take you into the edit page. When you are doing edit page, whichever the selected ID, which is passed in the parameter. Now you go here, look that you are moving to the navigating to the edit page with a parameter. Is assigning the parameter to the person ID. We are looking at the mapping it that it has got that the variable person ID is going in. Okay, now where the variable person ID, there's a variable created here. That is what that when you are clicking that information is whatever that information passed to here, that is stored here. That is a person ID information passed here. So this person ID is basically passed back into the assignment page. I mean the edit page. If you are looking at the edit page, there will be an event called VB enter when you are entering this event is called. So that will what it does is using the person ID, take the person information and assign the data into that the array or like a service provider, so that data will be appearing to you. Now we'll go and see that. I'm just refreshing it. Now I explain here what happens. The same thing functionally. Okay, now it is disabled because the reason the variable is null. As soon as I click here, this is enabled because the variable became the variable has got a person ID. When I'm clicking the edit information, this pass the person ID to the action. The action in turn pass the person ID to the new page. Okay, in the new page, there is a enter. When you are entering into the page, there is a action is there. The action takes the person ID, the incoming parameter value, and call the REST service, which basically get the value and populate the variables. This is what is happening here. Now you can choose it like P Michael M01. Okay, save PM001. So when you are clicking the create page, create this one. This is update that with the whatever you are passing it. This is what happens. So now we'll do that the final work of deleting it. Delete, sorry, it was my fault. Person next. So that's all. What is doing? I don't know. It didn't ask me anything. So when you're deleting it, there's no pages not created. Okay. I never use the delete from here. Now let's see when I'm running it. Whatever. Okay. Just I created the person. So okay. Now probably it is speaking everything internally. Okay. Let us what is doing here. Okay. When you're looking at the event, the same thing happened. The person change happened. Okay. Here it's not calling a page. It's deleting itself here. It's calling the rest to delete here. So there is no pages created. That actions happen within the manage page. Okay. So you have to be careful. It may not give you a pop-up or anything. Like let's see what happened. Yeah, it's done. So that's all for the day today. You can go and create create a object if you have access. Make sure you have that that what's it cloud access. I think probably they give you 3 months free. So create a cloud access if you don't have it. I didn't talk about that part because my assumption is you already have it. Okay. Create a smaller table like a DB object. Use the wizard and look at what wizard is doing it. Go and look at that JavaScript pages, variable pages, types. Look at that. Okay, if there is any problem happen, remove the page, create a new page again. Nothing will happen. You can create as much page possible. So that's all you can do that. So the more you understand, the more you mistake you do that, more you learn that. Okay, in our next lesson, we instead of all these 3 pages, we remove all these 3 pages. We have a one child page which through all the actions, so like create, update, delete. That we are going to manually we are going to do that. Okay. Till then, if you have any suggestion or like if you know something better, it is a wizard. This I don't know what we can do better. I have no idea. But if you have anything better than what I'm doing here, please let me know. If you have a question, ask me. Thank you. Bye.